Good morning. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I was out in Vegas at the Zillow conference and spent a few days with my son and his family. He has two children, a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and he asked me would I come back for Thanksgiving. So I decided I would do that. And so I spent Sunday through Sunday out there with him and the boys, and it was a really good time and relaxing and all of that. I had a funny situation that happened on Thanksgiving morning. His boys wanted to go play soccer at there's a little playground a couple of 3 blocks from where they live, and so we drove around there and they played for about an hour, and then when they were finished, I told my son, I said, I think I'll just walk back. So give me a chance to get a little exercise. And so we had, it was a little backwards how we went down there. And so I had walked that before and I thought it would all be good. So the problem was I didn't have my phone. And so I got to walking, and then I couldn't find how to get back to his house. So I had no phone and walked and finally got to one of the gates that are, a guard is at the gate. So I told the guard, I said, look, I don't have my phone and I can't find his place. So the guy said, well, do you know what the address is? And I said, no, I don't even know that. So uh, he said he wanted his name, so I gave him his name, and he called him, and my son came and picked me up, and so we had a little bit of a laugh about that, and he said, Dad, are you going to become this type of problem where we have to go find you? So I said, well, I really don't think so, but anyhow, his wife, he said, kept asking him, well, where is your dad? He said, well, he must be going for a long walk. So we all had a good laugh about that. I said, look, as far as I know, I don't have any problem with dementia or anything else, but so that was a good laugh we all shared. I want to talk to you uh, about me and about where my thinking has been, and it's no need to relive the past necessarily, but I broke my foot in December in 2015, and that was really a real challenge for me to deal with that because I'd never been in a situation where I had to rely on somebody to help me. But anyhow, that started a journey that was not fun, and we made some changes in our business structure with family. So I just want to kind of uh, share with you what my journey has been, and I I do know, and I've jotted down some points that I want to share. The first thing is that I have to admit that I lost my motivation. I am self motivated, and it was just seemed like the pressure of everything. I just lost some of my motivation. and I have no problem acknowledging that. And I'm sure some of you have been well aware. The second point is I'd allowed myself to become depressed. And I'm telling you, I have no problem with depression, but it was something that I became aware of that, it was just easy for me to uh, have what is it we refer to, a pity party. And I kind of got to that point. And the third point is that I'd accepted mediocrity. I'd convinced myself to accept whatever. And that was a little strange for me to have to acknowledge that, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. The fourth thing is I had some personal issues and family problems that I let become influences in how I thought and acted. I became weak and blamed circumstances. And I'm not the type of person that wants to blame somebody else. I own whatever the situation is. But I got to where I think mentally I was just wanting to blame somebody else or some other circumstance. The fifth point is I am a competitor and I don't like to lose. And so I kind of had a turnaround, and it I got to thinking about myself, and uh, challenged myself to think about what it means to compete, and how I don't allow myself to just lose the situation. So the sixth thing is I have made dramatic progress and have committed myself to get back on a winning track. Uh, and part of this is related to what I want to cover in the webinar because of some changes that are potentially in front of us. And I think we've got to get ready and prepared to meet those challenges. The seventh point is I hope that you can join me in reaching forward to enjoy the success you deserve. We have a couple of guys in our office who are battling cancer, and I one of them came in the other day, and I wasn't aware that he has had the challenge of that, but he was battling whether to. He just thought about turning in his license, and he's been a licensed agent for years. And I suggested to him, I said, I'm going to tell you, you really need the challenge of uh, doing real estate and some of these things that'll give you some reason to get out there and battle and compete. So I think it's a way to stay healthy. And he was very kind to say to me. He said, just coming in your office, you've always got a smile. And he said that gives me a little help in looking at this thing and figuring out what I need to do. Well, the point is he's keeping his license. He came to the classes we had a couple of weeks ago on Tuesday and Thursday nights. And I think, I hope that he's really on target and can get in there and do battle. So, folks, we all have that challenge. And I think whatever my influence is, I want to be the type leader that challenges you to go there, to go for it, and get what you need to make yourself successful. So, uh, hopefully, I can be a stronger leader and a lot more uh, contact with you to make sure you're on target. And I know a lot of you you know the business, you've been around a long time, and now is not the time to just lean back and give up on things. I think we've all got to challenge ourselves And I hope to challenge you to look forward and let's make a difference in what we can do and make a difference in the quality of life you have. Uh, I think it'll be important for all of us. So, uh, anyhow, uh, I want to cover a couple of things that I've run across, and I think it's interesting, and I think we need to look at it. One of the things I wanted to do, and uh, Steve Parker will understand this uh, probably better than most of us, but I just want you to be aware that the well, I didn't mean to leave the page. Let me get to it. Uh, I wanted to make you aware of this because this is important on the MLS. The NAR, in a Monday meeting, and this was back when they had their uh, national meeting, they have changed to prevent MLSs from requiring agents to pay for their services, even if they don't want it, so long as agents can prove they subscribe to a different MLS. MLSs will be required to provide a no-cost waiver of all MLS fees for such agents, and MLSs may, if they choose, require agents and their brokers to sign a certification for non-use of their MLS services, which, if violated, can include penalties, such as back billing and termination of the waiver. So that's an interesting thing, and the truth is, if you wanted to, you could join another MLS and you would not be required to join the local one. So I'm a member of the Crittenden County Board and MLS across the river, and that's a choice that I made. And so there are going to be more options for you, and if you choose. Question is, do they have to be Realtor MLS? That's what my sense of it in reading it. And if you want a copy of this, I didn't copy this, but obviously these things are copyrighted by Inman, but it's in Inman News. If you don't go to uh, if you don't have a subscription to Inman, I think it's worth the money for you to subscribe to that because there's a lot of information on Inman News that could be very helpful to you in staying up with things. Okay, what I want to cover is let me see if I can get this up. End of net neutrality. And I've got it, let me go back to my file. Net neutrality, this has to do with the FCC federal, whatever it is, it's they're over the internet, control that. But the definition of net neutrality is the principle that internet service providers should enable access to all content and applications regardless of the source and without favoring or blocking particular products or websites. Now, as you know, the we use a lot of things off of the internet, but with apparently what they're going to be doing. Let me pull this up because it'll make more sense. But this is, to me, it's very important. The new head of the FCC, his last name is Pai, P-A-I, and in the order in 2015, the quote is, "We propose to return to the Clinton era light touch framework that he has proven to be successful. And we propose to put technologists and engineers rather than lawyers and accountants at the center of the online world. The evidence so far strongly suggests that this is the right way to go in a sweeping rebuke to internet companies and consumers." U.S. Federal Communications Commission Chairman Ajit Pai on Tuesday released a plan to repeal so-called net neutrality regulations, a move with far-reaching implications for mom and pop brokerages and real estate services across America. Pai's plan would dismantle the 2-year-old Open Internet Order, which prohibits internet providers from blocking or slowing down websites or charging higher fees for certain websites online, and bundling services, such as cable providers bundle certain channels together and charge extra for premium ones like HBO and Showtime. Today, we propose to repeal utility-style regulations of the internet, said Pai, an Obama appointee to the FCC, elevated by Trump into chairman of the agency, who voted against the open internet. While Pai champions his proposal as a return to free market principles, many technologists and activists are alarmed by the implications. And folks, there is, where is the, let me go back to this. You can see here that this area here shows what potentially could occur. And smaller firms would have a cost for internet access that could become crippling to what we need and what is important to us. I just want to point out one thing. As you can tell, I don't, that part of this is going to be a challenge. But if we, I have always felt that there's power in numbers, and I would really like to reach a number of 500 agents in our offices. And I think we can do it. I think it's important because there's power with numbers. And the more agents we have, the more listings we have, and we will be able to compete and be viable in the marketplace. If we don't, it's something that could affect us in a longer term and cost us a lot more money. So you can go back through these and read this, and I think it'll give you a better sense of what we're looking at and what the potential is. So let me get back to the, if I could find it again. I've got it here somewhere. That's not the right one. So you can see in this article, one of the examples they gave that we don't have to imagine what the U.S. would look like without net neutrality. Net neutrality simply means everybody has access to the same level for speed and efficiency in how it works. Portugal has already shown that web services end up bundled when there are no regulations preventing this. For internet-centric real estate companies like Redfin, Zillow, and Realtor.com, the rollback could have a deleterious effect, with internet providers making it more expensive to access these websites reliably. Additionally, to remain competitive, brokers and real estate services might be forced to pay extra in order to ensure their workforces could access all the websites that they rely on, should providers choose to offer a tiered service model. So that's a very real challenge. I don't know how it's going to work out, but there's always a solution that could work for us better. One of the solutions is building a stronger base of agents. And the numbers, what you can trade off would be your listings and have and maintain the level of competition that we would want to maintain. Does that make sense? The comment from the NAR president, Elizabeth Mendenhall, technology is an increasingly important part of the way our membership delivers its services, whether through streaming video, drone technology, or other applications. We remain concerned that a rollback of net neutrality rules could lead to blocking, throttling, or discriminating against internet traffic, or even paid prioritization arrangements that put small mom and pop businesses at a disadvantage in the marketplace. We will continue working with the FCC to share these concerns and ensure a fair and open internet where everyone can succeed. Now, Redfin as well blasted the FCC decision, saying it would penalize independent brokers as well as the Seattle-based brokerage and database service itself by raising fees, blocking content, and slowing down service. Redfin's mission to redefine real estate in the consumer's favor depends on free and open access to information about every home for sale, whether it be on redfin.com or on a small website run by the real estate agent who's listing the home. So you can see that this is a deep and wide situation, and it's a major concern for some of the major companies. Okay? So just so you're aware of that, where we are and what is occurring. Now, let me get back over here. Okay. The next one that I want to go over, Realogy is a major competitor, and they own several companies like Century 21 and all of those companies. They're the largest player. So I want to go over this, and I think it's important to look at this because I'll give you a little bit of the history, but the Walt Disney Company announced this week that it is launching Disney and ESPN branded direct-to-consumer content services, potentially striking a blow to consumer-facing tech giant Netflix. The point is, I'm sure many of you subscribe to Netflix, and so what Disney is doing they have branded direct to consumer services. And Netflix has been that one who stepped in between everything and had advantages for, watching movies and delivering all that to people. But now let's go back to the history with Realogy. Uh, 20 years ago, Realogy abandoned its strategy to go to consumers direct when it sold Move.com for a whopping $760 million in stock to Home Store. And you know that Home Store, Move.com, they were the ones that sold out to the Fox network people. So what Realogy did this years ago, 20 some years ago, and there was a really big frustration for a lot of agents who resented the fact of how this was handled and all the money that was exchanged for it. When the presumption was that NAR owned Realtor.com, the domain name. Okay, so at one point, Realogy was very much involved in that, and they sold it out, $760 million. Home Store's CEO turned the interesting listing site into a portal powerhouse, but crossed the legal line and went to prison for a variety of white-collar crimes. And I'm sure most of you did not know that. At the time, Realogy got itself wrapped up in that dirty diaper in ways that it regrets. Was abandoning the consumer strategy a mistake? That's a question about, did Realogy make a mistake in selling that? Over the years, nearly $10 billion in market value was created by Realogy's frenemies, okay? And one of those was Zillow and Realtor.com. In the last 5 years, the real estate franchisor Realogy, with a 3.55 market cap, lost 1.5 billion in market value. Zillow's market cap is 7.2 billion. Plus, Realogy and the rest of the industry lost control of their core asset, home listings. Now, Zillow is the one that stepped up and took control of a lot of things. And Realogy completely missed the consumer moment. So now there's a new CEO in town. Retiring Realogy's CEO, Richard Smith, has chosen to partner with the real estate portals and stick to the franchise business. He has been reluctant to get back into the fight over who owns the data, and he resisted starting another consumer site. His disciplined focus saved the company with a dreadful downturn. But much has changed in the last 10 years, and opportunity seems to be passing it by. Okay, now here is the news that's interesting. Realogy has a new CEO with a strong consumer bent. In other words, he has a lot of interest in the consumer aspect of things. Talk about perfect timing. Ryan Schneider is a former executive at credit card giant Capital One, which was one of the first companies to systematically scour analytics to understand consumer spending habits. Data insights inform decisions on creating a variety of consumer credit cards. Brilliant numbers-driven execution. You must imagine he is eyeballing the consumer opportunity for Realogy. If he isn't, then I'm not a man who was born in Illinois. Disney's power play. The similarities to Disney are unmistakable. like Realogy's home listings. Disney's content was hijacked by consumer powerhouses, Netflix and Amazon, making the media company a content vendor for the streaming services. Realogy is the largest content vendor for Zillow and Realtor.com. My pejorative description, not theirs. Disney is taking a big swing at the ball, investing $1.6 billion in a technology platform for its new consumer products. The ESPN branded video streaming services will be at its first initiative, followed by a Disney branded experience. Like Disney with cable operators, Realogy is stuck with a weak link in the real estate value chain. It sells franchises to real estate brokerages, many of which are struggling and threatened by disruption, a predicament that's forcing Realogy to finance many losing businesses. A proportion of brokers today are like house rich, cash poor homeowners. They have the listings but little net income. And they're up against a major marketing challenge. The old rules of franchise branding have in some ways become obsolete when you consider most consumers go to the real estate portals first. Century 21 has brand awareness, but Zillow, like Netflix, is a habit. Who's really at fault for the real estate's data control fumble? Akin to Disney versus Netflix, Realogy lost the consumer to Zillow. Moreover, it enabled the new tech upstarts, starting with Realtor.com 20 years ago. Though Zillow is cast as the inimical one, the whole mess started with the National Association of Realtors' conflicted investment in HomeStore. There are many agents who detest the action that NAR did by selling out Realtor.com, and then when you wanted, if we believe that was ours as realtors, they sold it out, and now we have to pay to use it when it was really ours to begin with. So this goes on, but I'm telling you, here is there's a lesson in all of that. Beware when NAR and big brokers cook up a scheme. No one can mess up your life more than a clever and greedy parent plotting secretly with your wayward siblings. Your protector becomes untrustworthy. Uh, while Realtor.com reeled from scandal, Zillow snuck into town and took over. Did you ever walk down the street and find a few bills strewn along the sidewalk? Imagine stumbling upon 7 billion. The test for Disney's courageous or crazy next move will be when it pulls its movies from Netflix after launching its new consumer products. Again, the parallels to real estate are uncanny. Okay, now I'm sorry for the length of that, but I just want you to understand competition is something we all have to deal with in business, okay? And one of the potential things with Realogy is that there is a concern that they may be, in fact, looking at some ways to get back into the consumer world where they have direct access to consumers with their listings. And they remove those from Zillow and have no doubt competition will continue. And it's going to be interesting what happens. There was something in here, and I'm sorry I missed it when I read it, but one of the things that they referred to in this article was that all that Realogy would have to do is go in and buy Keller Williams, and then they would have a broad base of listings and everything else to compete. And going back to direct to consumers, as Zillow has, and take a position, and they certainly have the strength. Okay, so it's just one of those things, and I'm telling you, what our benefit will be is if we decide to, if we can get our numbers up, it'll give us more power in the competition. Okay. Well, I appreciate you listening, and I hope you pick up some ideas, and let's go for it and compete successfully, and carve out a stronger position in the local market. Okay? Anybody have a question? Okay. If there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. If you have any questions, give me a buzz. I'll be glad to talk to you. And let's make it happen. Thank you for listening to me.